Okay, welcome back. This is the 19th session. And in the two previous sessions, we mentioned the what appear to be versus what could be and what actually is, uh, about truth, right? So, what is truth? It's up to the interpretation, and different parties probably come up with different versions because of the different angles. And then what is fact? The fact is, basically uh, depend on the finding, and there are different, I guess, possible outcomes coming out of the finding of the same fact. So if you're in the, journalism, you're not supposed to have bias, right? But seriously, do you know one, you know, media actually has zero bias? Um, if so, then we would have no quarrel, between the Western media and whatever other countries, like Russia or China or whatever else. People have their political differences, and they certainly have different views of the world, and that's totally understandable. But then we're back to this point. What is the, I guess, the truth? I think that could be, if you don't be careful, that could be a rather confusing. I'll just give you one analogy here, and hopefully, I don't know if you have the same experience, but I don't know if that could help you to relate. When I first arrived in the United States, the first time I, heard a speech by a U.S. congressman. It was about, I was attending Maritime Academy. So this is all about American maritime related policy. And we were studying American politics, the policy, and the laws, or the maritime industry. So anyway, this was once congressman, and I heard his speech. That was, wow, very inspirational, because basically, he laid out his points, like we are, a nation with three coasts, and we have the biggest navy, on earth, but we need to have the ships flagging American, flags. And do we have a big merchant marine, flagging the American flags, showing American colors? No. So that is wrong. That is fundamentally wrong. And does it make sense? Of course it does. And then talking about the shipyard, right? Not too many ships are built in America. So what about the American shipbuilding industry, right? All that. And I thought, oh, that was great. Man, this is democracy. And, I felt pretty, strong about it after I heard this. Wow. But then it didn't take long until I heard the other American congressman gave a speech, and it also sounded so great, so powerfully delivered. I said, basically, the American farmers competing against the Canadians, the Australians, selling to the Russians, to the Chinese, but our competition, they're all subsidized. Poor American farmers, they're on their own. We cannot help them. So they lose their competition in the, unfair trade. Wow, that sounded right too. But then you sit down and think about it. Wait. Two things are actually in conflict. They cannot both be right, but they do sound, right, both of them. So on one hand, if you want to compete, in the agricultural product market worldwide on a global stage. We're talking about the shipping costs, right? So when you have to ship American, flag, okay, so do you understand what that means? Because an American shipping, basically, the American ships are, basically all American, crew, right? Captain, chief mate, second mate, third mate, all the way, and then chief engineer, first engineer, second engineer, third engineer, and all that. You know how much they pay a 100% Indian crew back then versus the American. Of course, the Americans, and also if it's an American flag ship, it has to be built in an American shipyard. And do you know the cost of that versus, what is a shipyard, let's say in Korea, South Korea, and today, of course, China. Obviously, when you put all that cost up, then you're like, there's no way I can compete against, those other, because say the Canadians, Australians, they don't have to hire, their own national color. That could be, they just, put it out there on the open market, whatever the international steamship lines, pick it up at a fair price, under the contract, the charter party. So there I was confused. Okay, yeah. So I asked my American classmates, I'm like, I'm really confused. How could both of them be right? Whereas they're really just working against each other. And then my American classmate told me, said, okay, here's the thing. Before you, try to figure it out, first look at the U.S. congressman gave that speech. Which state was the congressman, from? And then look at what is the prime industry of that state that the congressman is from. Nevertheless, what's the, political base or the constituency the congressman is actually representing and got elected for, right? So if this is the farm state, the U.S. congressman came from the farm state, of course, he or she would speak on, the farmer's interests. But if this is, from, state of Maine, we're talking about shipping, shipbuilding, the shipyard and all that, and the other, maritime related, of course. So before you get excited, hearing all this speech, my American classmates told me, you really should know what they're really trying to do is trying to pass a bill to help their own state. Of course, they dress it up, politically, patriotically, and all that things, the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, now that makes sense. So here's the thing. Let me ask you, where is the truth to all this, right? Because they all sound really good, because those guys, they are professional politicians. They're not like you and me, right? So when they talk, they are really good talkers. Otherwise, how do you think they got elected, right? So what is the truth? What appeared to be, is that actually what it really is? This is just one example, right? And then I guess there are other examples also. I guess you need to watch out, what it really is, and as versus, put it this way, if at least in America, you ask people, like a coworker or something, and they're like, hey, what do you think of John Doe? John Doe. I think John is a very nice guy. When American telling you someone is a nice guy, a lot of time, it could mean a lot of different things. One, John is really a nice guy. Okay? 2, going beyond just being a nice guy. Anything else? If you sum up the whole thing about one person as being a nice guy, what a lot of time what they're really trying to say politely is, I really cannot think of anything else to say about John, except for he's a nice guy, or at least he appears to be a nice guy, or I'm going to be polite and calling him a nice guy. Is he really a nice guy? Does it really matter? I'm American. I want to be political, or at least politically correct. So that's about John Doe, a nice guy, right? What if John Doe passed away, right? So people are offering their condolences, and regardless, how whatever they were thinking about John while John's around live and kicking, now the obituary would offer a very, very flattering version of John, sum up John's life. Oh, he was not only just a nice guy, he did this, he did that. Do you think you would actually bring up anything John did that was not so right? No, that would be nasty. So let's say 30 years later, you look at the obituary. Oh, this was John. Even though, through the, I guess, the ambiguity, all this, nice but empty words, you couldn't really tell what John was. And then you start to read a whole bunch of other fellas, guys, ladies, girls, boys, and they all sounded like nice people. Is that fact? Is that how you find out about this person's life while this person was still, among us, walking? Well, I guess we want to be polite. We want to be nice, right? So we want, after we pass away, we want people to say that we were nice people too, right? So what is the fact here? What's the truth here? You're totally deceived, right? Out of goodwill, nice intention. So this is what I'm trying to, I guess, to help you to relate. You don't just take people's word for it. And a lot of time you don't even know, even though not all the time they actually did not, have the intention that is not so well, but the result is the same. You are, I guess, deceived, okay? Intentionally or not intentionally, well-intended or not well-intended, the results are the same, right? So that's not the truth. So this is why, I guess, we need to differentiate what appear to be, from what actually it is. So I hope this makes sense. And so if you still think there's something need to be, I guess, somewhat talked about, let me know. Drop a few comments, questions. I'll be inviting you guys to join me on a discussion, because this is supposed to be a book club, and I just started, sharing on my part, and I hope some of you have your own life experiences different from mine. It'll be really, I guess, enriching, for the entire book club activities here. If we could, I guess, hear about the different life experience or different angles, different observations, any of that would do. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. And so I will, in this session here, so it will be relatively shorter one. At the beginning, I meant to, basically keep every session at about 10 minutes. But I guess I guess I couldn't stop. But anyway, this will be the first one that's really short. We are 15 minutes into this session, and I'll just right here. Ciao.